What's going on, YouTube? So it's Labor Day, shop's closed today, but honestly, if I'm not painting a car, hitting the gym, or editing a YouTube video, I don't know what to do with myself. So I'm going to use this opportunity to show you guys one technique that you could apply today to be a better painter. The project we have today is this Toyota Camry. It's a really cool blue color. Our prep guy thought I might want to cut the clear here, which in some cases I would, but by the time I put my sealer on, I'm gonna be so close to that body line. And this car is a 2025. I really don't like cutting clear on new cars like that. It's just not the right thing to do. But before we do that, we gotta get this thing unmasked, out of the booth, and get that thing in here. When it comes to painting a car, I think there's one thing that everybody would agree on. Probably the only thing everyone would agree on. That there's more variables to consider than you could even count. But when it comes to the actual application and how you apply it with your hands, there's really only three. And those three are your speed, your distance, and your overlap. Now, out of those three variables, the one that, in my experience, in my opinion, other people may have a different opinion, the one that impacts my paint jobs the most is the distance my gun is from the panel. So today, I'm gonna show you guys a technique to ensure that you keep as consistent distance from that panel as possible. Now, in this next shot, I want you guys to see if you can figure out what I'm doing to keep a consistent distance from this panel. And it's going to be in vertical format because this is such a cool color that I want to use it for my shorts. I kind of messed up. I didn't do the method until the very end of the panel. I was so concerned with getting my short video to come out nice that I forgot to do the method until the very end of the panel. But if you have a keen eye, you definitely caught on to what I changed at the end there. Either way, I'm going to show you right now. So it has to do with how you hold your gun. Most people put two fingers on the trigger, right? Well, what I want you guys to do is take your index finger and put it on the body of the gun. There's two reasons I want you to do this. The first reason is very simple. Our whole lives, what do we do when we touch something? We touch it with our fingertips, right? Not our knuckles. So our sense of distance will be much better with our fingertips than with our knuckles. I can tell you a lot easier how far away I am from something if I have my fingers out as opposed to having my fingers in. So what you're doing by keeping that index finger out is you're giving yourself a better sense of distance, which is gonna help you keep a more consistent distance. The second way that having the index finger on the body of the gun is gonna help you is when that finger's out, it's a lot more difficult for you to bend your wrist, which is good. When you're painting something, you don't wanna bend your wrist, you don't wanna flick. I know sometimes you may see me flick when I'm painting a panel here or there, but the reason for that is mainly because when I get to the end of the panel and I know I passed it, I just want to make sure I'm covering, so I'll flick a tiny bit. But realistically, in a perfect world, you never want to flick your wrist. You want to keep your gun perpendicular with the panel. If you're flicking it, you're not getting the same coverage that you would as if you kept it straight, like a robot would. So the way I'm gonna demonstrate this to you guys, on our first coat of clear, I'm gonna hold my gun further back than I normally would, and I'm gonna flick at the end of my panels. Then we're gonna inspect the panel. Then on my second coat of clear, I'm gonna keep my finger on the body of the gun. to help myself, even though realistically, after doing this for so many years, I don't need to do that. But for someone who's just beginning or someone who's struggling, this is gonna help very much. And then you're gonna see the difference in the finish on the first coat and the second coat. And all I did was not flick my wrist and keep a consistent distance. And keeping that finger out really limits how much you can bend your wrist, which is good. When you have it closed, you can go almost to 90 degrees both ways. When you have it open, you can't go as far because your tendons are stretched out a bit. The point that I'm really trying to get across here to you guys is when you're painting a car, the most important thing to your paint job coming out beautiful is consistency. Without consistency, there's no way you're gonna have a beautiful paint job. I mean, look at the cars that come from the factory, brand new. Look at the paint job on those things. They're almost perfect. And they're almost perfect because they're painted by robots. And one thing about a robot is it's way more consistent than a human could ever be. So on our first coat of clear, I'm gonna paint this thing with a very inconsistent distance from the panel. So I'm gonna be moving my gun back and forth while I'm putting that first coat of clear on. All right, this thing's all set for clear. We're gonna be throwing it on with our PRD 815 with the 1.3 cap on it. By the way, they just came out with the 1.2 version of this. I'm gonna be reviewing that gun this week, and I'm also holding a giveaway for that gun. If you want to get entered to win that, it's real easy. I'll put the instructions in the pinned comment below. So on our first coat, we're gonna lay this on with a very inconsistent distance from the panel. Then we're gonna inspect that first coat. On our second coat, we're gonna apply it with a very consistent distance using the technique that I showed you guys. And we're gonna compare the finish on that first coat to the finish on that second coat. And hopefully that will teach you guys how paramount consistency is when it comes to getting a great paint job. I should also mention before we start clearing this thing, I am not gonna change how my gun is set up between the first and the second coat. This way, the only variable that's changing is having an inconsistent distance from our panel and having a consistent distance from our panel. So the difference between our first and our second coat will solely be because of that. Okay, here we go, first coat. And we're gonna move further and closer as we go down this panel. And we're keeping the same overlap. The only thing I'm changing is my distance. Let me let this overspray settle and then we'll inspect. All right, now, in this section right here, I kept my gun closer. I still changed the distance slightly, but I kept it closer just so we could see how having it closer gives you a better finish. But overall, this is what happens when you have an inconsistent distance. When your gun is further, the paint dries before it lands, or because it's dry, it bounces off the panel rather than sticking to the panel. You can see here around our edges where we flicked our gun. You don't want to flick your gun because this is what happens. Overall, inconsistent distance equals inconsistent finish. Now we're gonna let that flash off. Then we're gonna throw our second coat on using the method that I showed you guys. And we're gonna see how much more beautiful our paint job comes out. All right, let's see if we're ready for our next coat. Yep. We are ready for our second coat. You see, there's no stringiness, there's no clear transferring from the paper or tape to my glove, which means this thing's ready for a second coat. And I'm gonna apply it the same way I applied the first coat, just this time I'm keeping a consistent distance, but I will move fast just like I did on the first coat. See me keeping my pointer finger out to get a better sense of my distance from the panel? I'm telling you guys, if you hold your gun like this, you're gonna feel so much more confident when you're clearing a car. Hopefully you don't feel too confident that you can start running everything, but you definitely will feel more confident and you'll get your paint jobs to come out like this. All right, I baked this thing, ate my lunch. Now, let's see how it came out. I mean, compare the edges and the inside of this door to how it was before. This gun, it lays beautiful clear. I don't like it as much for base as I do for clear, but for clear, it's one hell of a gun, man. I mean, look at that finish. Beautiful, beautiful texture. I really encourage you guys to start holding your gun the way I showed you in this video, because like I said, it's gonna give you a lot more confidence because your brain is gonna know exactly how far you are from that panel, which is going to deliver more consistency, which is going to deliver these results. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. If you enjoyed the video, if you got any value out of it, if you were entertained, if you could, drop a like, comment, maybe even subscribe. It means a lot to me. It helps out the channel a bunch, and I really appreciate it. Until the next time, peace!